The lecture hall stretched wide and tall, built to hold students from 100 different worlds. Seats of every size and shape filled the massive room. Some students sat on cushions designed for bodies that bent in ways humans never could. Others floated in liquid-filled chambers. A few rested on heated platforms that glowed a soft red dot. Professor Thelver stood at the front of the hall. He was old, even by his species standards. His skin had the gray-blue color of deep ocean water, and his 4 eyes could look in different directions at once. He had been teaching xenobiology for longer than most species had been exploring space. Today was the first day of his most famous course, Apex Predators of the Known Galaxy. Daeyun sat near the back of the hall. He was the only human in the room. In fact, he was the only human at the entire Interstellar Academy. His brown hair and simple features looked plain compared to the exotic forms around him. Next to him sat a Krolith student whose armored plates clicked softly whenever he moved. In front of him, a Minari student's head tendrils moved slowly through the air, sensing thoughts and emotions from those nearby. The human felt small. He always felt small here. Back on Earth, he had been average height. Here, most students towered over him. He had no natural armor like the Krolith. He couldn't read minds like the Minari. His teeth were flat and dull. His nails were soft. He couldn't see in the dark or smell fear or hear heartbeats from across a room. By every measure that mattered in this place, Daeyun was weak. Professor Thelver activated the holographic display. Lights danced in the air, forming images and text. His voice carried easily through the hall, translated instantly into every language present. Welcome to Advanced Xenobiology, Apex Predators. This course examines the 17 species that have earned the designation of Apex Predator. These are the most dangerous hunters evolution has ever created. The students leaned forward with interest. This was why many of them had come to the Academy, to study the galaxy's most fearsome creatures. To understand what made something truly dangerous, an apex predator, the professor continued, is defined by specific criteria. First, natural weapons, claws, teeth, venom, or other biological tools designed to kill. Second, enhanced senses, the ability to detect prey through sight, smell, hearing, or other means beyond the ordinary. Third, evolutionary dominance. An apex predator sits at the top of its world's food chain. And fourth, most importantly, an apex predator can hunt anything it chooses and cannot itself be hunted. The display changed. An image formed in the air, showing a massive creature covered in scales. It stood on 4 thick legs, and its mouth opened to reveal rows of sharp teeth. This is the Rockish, from the high-gravity world of Karn, our first apex predator. Daeyun watched as the professor described the Rockish in detail. It could crush bone with its jaws. Its claws could tear through metal. It had sensors in its skin that detected the electrical fields all living things produce. On its homeworld, nothing could escape a Rockish. Nothing dared to hunt one. The second predator appeared next. The Vrillin looked nothing like the Rockish. It lived in methane seas and had tentacles instead of legs. But it was just as deadly. Venom that worked on any nervous system. Strength that could bend steel beams. Intelligence spread across its entire body so that cutting off one tentacle barely slowed it down, one by one. Professor Thelver presented all 17 apex predators. Each one was a masterpiece of evolution. Each one represented millions of years of development, creating the perfect hunter for its world. The Nithrak could become invisible in shadows. The Skrull hunted in hives where thousands of minds worked as one. The Pyrians could survive in temperatures that would melt most metals. The lecture went on for 2 hours. Daeyun took notes on his tablet, but he also watched his fellow students. He saw their reactions when each predator was shown. Pride from students whose species were on the list. Respect from everyone else. These were the creatures you didn't challenge. These were the hunters that had conquered their world so completely that they had no natural enemies. Finally, Professor Thelver finished presenting the 17th predator. He turned off the holographic display and faced the class. These 17 species represent the pinnacle of predatory evolution. Each one has proven itself to be without equal on its homeworld. They are the galaxy's most perfect hunters. The professor paused, letting his words sink in. Students made sounds of agreement in their various languages. This was established fact. Everyone knew about the 17 apex predators. It was basic xenobiology. Are there any questions? Professor Thelver asked. The room stayed quiet for a moment. Then Dae-Yoon raised his hand. The gesture looked odd. Most species didn't use hand-raising to get attention. Some used sound. Others changed color. A few released specific scents. But Dae-Yoon just lifted his arm into the air and waited. Professor Thelver's 4 eyes focused on the human. He had noticed Dae-Yoon before, of course. The only human at the academy was hard to miss. The professor had been curious about having a human in his class. Humans were new to the galactic community. Not much was known about them yet, except that they were clever and seemed friendly enough. Yes, the professor said. You have a question? Dae-Yoon stood up. His voice was clear, but not loud. Professor, why aren't humans on the list? The hall went silent. Then sound started. The Krolith next to Dae-Yoon made a huffing noise that was his species' version of laughter. Other students clicked or whistled or hummed in amusement. A few looked confused, as if they had misheard. Professor Thelver tilted his head, a gesture that showed he was thinking. He wasn't angry at the question. If anything, he seemed interested. That is an excellent question for discussion, he said carefully. Why do you think humans might qualify as apex predators? Dae-Yoon didn't sit back down. I think humans fit all 4 of your criteria. We have natural weapons. We have enhanced senses for what we need. We achieved evolutionary dominance on our world, and we can hunt anything without being hunted ourselves. More sounds of amusement from the class. The Krolith student spoke up, his voice translated by the systems into standard galactic. Humans have no claws, no real teeth, no armor, no venom. What weapons are you talking about? Dae-Yoon looked at the Krolith student. Our hands. Our minds. Our body is built for something you've never seen before. Professor Thelver held up one of his limbs, calling for quiet. The hall settled down. He looked at Dae-Yoon with what might have been curiosity or pity or both. Dae-Yoon, I appreciate your species' pride, but humans, from what we know, do not meet the criteria. You have no natural weapons that compare to true predators. Your senses are limited compared to most species here. Your strength is average at best. And while humans are certainly intelligent and successful, intelligence alone does not make an apex predator. The professor pulled up data on the display. Information about Earth appeared in the air. Look at Earth's other predators. Your world has animals with better senses than humans, faster speed than humans, greater strength than humans. If we're being honest, humans aren't even the apex predator of their own world. That distinction would go to your orcas or saltwater crocodiles, or perhaps your largest bears. Dae-Yoon listened without interrupting. When the professor finished, the human student spoke again. Professor, with respect, I think you're measuring us by the wrong standards. May I present evidence? The hall had gone completely quiet now. Students who had been amused were now curious. This small, soft human was challenging one of the galaxy's greatest experts on predation. It was either very brave or very foolish. Professor Thelver considered for a long moment. Then he made a gesture that meant agreement. Very well. Our next class session is in 3 days. You may use the first hour to present your case. Bring whatever evidence you feel is relevant. But understand, Dae-Yoon, that this is a scientific institution. Your argument must be based on facts, not feelings. I understand, Professor. Thank you. Dae-Yoon sat back down. The class ended shortly after. As students filed out of the hall, they talked among themselves. Most thought the human was foolish. A few felt sorry for him. He was about to embarrass himself in front of the entire class. Challenging Professor Thelver on predator biology was like challenging a fish on how to swim. But a small number of students, the ones who thought more carefully, wondered about something. The human hadn't seemed upset or defensive. He had asked his question calmly. He had accepted the challenge without fear. And when he said humans had natural weapons, there had been something in his voice. Not anger, not pride, just certainty. Like he knew something they didn't. Dayon walked back to his quarters alone. He had a lot of work to do before the next class. 3 days to gather evidence. 3 days to explain to the galaxy what humans really were. 3 days to make them understand that humans hadn't reached the stars by being weak. They had reached the stars by being something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that didn't fit the old definitions. Something that had walked across an entire planet and decided to keep walking into the sky. He smiled as he entered his room. This was going to be interesting. 3 days passed quickly. Dayon spent every free hour preparing his presentation. He contacted Earth's Xenobiology Institute. He reviewed historical records. He compiled data that most spec IS never thought to look at, because that was the problem, he realized. The galaxy measured predators by their own standards. They looked for claws and fangs and venom. They never looked for what made humans dangerous. The lecture hall filled up again. This time, there were more students than before. Word had spread about the human who challenged Professor Thelver. Some came to learn. Others came to watch Dayon fail. Either way, the hall was packed. Professor Thelver stood at his usual place. He gestured for Dayon to come forward. The human walked to the front, carrying his tablet. He looked calm. Inside, his heart was beating fast, but he had learned long ago that fear was just information. It told you something mattered, didn't tell you to stop. The floor is yours, Dayon, Professor Thelver said. Present your evidence. Dayon activated the holographic display. Thank you, Professor. I want to start by asking the class a question. What is an apex predator? Students called out answers. Strength, weapons, senses, dominance. Dayon nodded at each one. Then he put up new text on the display. All good answers. But I think the most important definition is this. An apex predator is a species that can hunt anything it chooses and cannot itself be hunted. Would you all agree? The class made sounds of agreement. Even Professor Thelver gestured his approval. That was the core definition. Everything else was just details about how different species achieved that status. Then let me tell you about human hunting, Dayon said. The display changed. It showed a wide grassland under a hot sun. A human figure stood on one side. An animal that looked like a deer stood far away on the other side. This is called persistence hunting. It was how humans hunted for hundreds of thousands of years. The animation started. The deer saw the human and ran. It was fast, much faster than the human. Within seconds, it had disappeared over a hill. The human started jogging, not running. The steady jog. The class watched, confused. The prey was already gone. What was the point? The deer runs until it feels safe, Dayon explained. Then it stops to rest. Needs to rest because running that fast takes a lot of energy. Its body heats up quickly, has to stop and cool down. The animation showed the deer lying in shade, panting. Its body temperature was displayed in red. Too hot, it needed to rest. Then the human appeared over the hill, still jogging, still coming. The deer saw the human and ran again. Again, it quickly disappeared into the distance. Again, the human just kept jogging. This happens again and again, Dayon said. The deer runs. The deer rests. The human keeps coming. Every time the deer thinks it's safe, the human appears. After a few hours, something changes. The animation continued. The deer's rests got shorter. Its runs got slower. Its body temperature stayed too high. Couldn't cool down fast enough anymore. The human just kept that same steady pace, never speeding up, never slowing down, never stopping. After about 4 to 6 hours, the deer can't run anymore. It's too hot, too tired. Its muscles don't work right. It just stands there. And the human walks up and kills it with a simple spear. The class was quiet now. They watched the human in the animation approach the collapsed deer. They saw how the human was still walking normally, not even breathing hard, like he could go for hours more if he needed to. A Minari student spoke up. That's not hunting. That's just following something until it dies from exhaustion. Miss Dayon said simply, That's exactly what it is. And it's terrifying if you're the prey. He changed the display again. This time, it showed human anatomy. Humans evolved to do this. Look at our bodies. We walk on 2 legs, which is very efficient for long distances. We have the best cooling system of any large animal on Earth. We can sweat from almost our whole body. This lets us run in heat that would kill most predators. Our leg muscles are built for endurance, not speed. We have very efficient joints that don't waste energy. We can carry water and food while we run, which other animals can't do. More images appeared. Diagrams of human feet, legs, hips, lungs. Every part was built for the same purpose. Keep going. Don't stop. Outlast everything else. But it's not just physical, Dayon continued. It's mental. Humans can track. We can. Look at bent grass, at footprints, at disturbed dirt, and know exactly where an animal went. We can predict where it will go next. We can cut it off. We can plan hours ahead. And most importantly, we never stop. That's what makes us different. We don't give up. Professor Thelver leaned forward. This is interesting, Dayon. But endurance is not the same as being an apex predator. Many species can walk long distances. You're right, Professor. But how many can do it while hunting? How many can chase prey for hours in the midday heat? How many can do it every single day if they need to? Dayon paused. The answer is none. Only humans. He changed the display again. This time it showed a human throwing a spear. Let me show you something else. Humans are the only species in the known galaxy that can throw objects with both power and accuracy. Our shoulders, our arms, our wrists, all evolved for throwing. We can kill prey from 30 meters away, 50 meters with practice. Became ranged predators before we even invented complex tools. The animation showed how human shoulder joints were different from other primates, how the arm could rotate in ways that created massive speed, how the wrist could snap at the last second to add even more velocity. The spear flew through the air and hit a target dead center. Think about what that means, Dayon said to the class. A predator that doesn't have to get close. A predator that can hurt you from a distance you can barely see. A predator that can try again and again because throwing doesn't tire us out. That's not a weakness. That's a weapon you can't defend against. A Krolith student made a dismissive sound. Rocks and sticks. That's not natural weapons. That's using tools. Dayon smiled. Is a bird's nest a tool? Is a beaver's dam a tool? Or are they natural behaviors that the animal evolved to do? Humans evolved to use tools. Our hands are built for it. Brains are built for it. Using tools is as natural for humans as claws are for you. Maybe more natural because we've been doing it longer than your species has had claws. He displayed images of human hands next to Krolith claws. Your claws are fixed. They're always the same. They're strong, yes. But they can only do one thing. Human hands can grip. They can manipulate. They can adjust tools for different situations. Today, I might use this tool for hunting. Tomorrow, I might use a different one. My hands never change, but what I can do with them changes every single day. Is that not a more powerful natural weapon? The professor made a thoughtful sound. Other students shifted in their seats. This wasn't the embarrassing failure they expected. The human was making them question basic assumptions. Dayon wasn't finished. Let me tell you about human senses. You said we're weak in this area. Compared to many species, our senses aren't impressive in raw power. We can't see in the dark like Nethrok. We can't smell fear like Rockish. Can't hear heartbeats like Vrillin. But our senses are built for hunting in daylight, over long distances, in complex terrain. That's what they evolved for. He showed images of human eyes. We have color vision. We have excellent depth perception. We can track movement across vast distances. We can see details at range. These aren't prey animal eyes. These are hunter eyes. Eyes that can spot a limp in an animal from a kilometer away. Eyes that can track something across open ground for hours without losing sight of it. Eyes that can work in the brightest conditions when other predators have to hide from the heat. The display changed to show human brains, and we can think, we can plan, we can work together in groups, coordinating complex strategies, we can communicate exact information to each other. If I hunt with 10 other humans, we can split up, surround prey, drive it toward a trap, and execute a plan that takes hours to complete. No other predator can do that, Professor Thelver interrupted. Intelligence is not unique to humans. Many species are intelligent. True, Dayon agreed. But how many species evolve their intelligence for hunting? Most smart species in the galaxy are prey animals who got smart to avoid being eaten, or they're predators who got smart after they already had claws and teeth. Humans got smart because it made us better at hunting. Our intelligence is a hunting tool. It's part of our predator package, not separate from it. He let that sink in before continuing. Now let me show you the most important part, the part that makes humans true apex predators. The display changed to show Earth's extinction records. Names and images of animals scrolled past. Mammoths, giant sloths, saber-toothed cats, cave bears, dozens more. All of these animals went extinct because of human hunting. We didn't just hunt them for food. We hunted them until they were gone. Some of these animals were bigger than us, stronger than us, had better weapons. It didn't matter. We hunted them all. The class was completely silent now. The list kept scrolling. So many species, all gone. All hunted to extinction by humans. This is what an apex predator does, Dayon said quietly. Not just survive, not just hunt. We dominated our world so completely that we had to create rules to stop ourselves from hunting everything to death. We became so good at killing that we had to learn restraint, because without restraint we would have nothing left to hunt. Professor Thelver looked at the data carefully. These are troubling numbers, he admitted. But couldn't these extinctions be from habitat destruction? Climate change? Disease? Some, yes. But the data shows that megafauna extinction lines up with human expansion almost perfectly. Everywhere humans went, large animals disappeared within a few thousand years. Africa is different only because animals there evolved alongside humans. They learned to fear us. They adapted. Animals on other continents didn't have that chance. We arrived, and they died. Dayon turned off the display. Professor, you said humans aren't apex predators because we don't have the right weapons or senses. But I think you're measuring wrong. An apex predator isn't just about claws or venom. It's about results. Can you hunt anything you choose? Can anything hunt you? For humans, the answers are yes and no. We can hunt anything. We hunted animals bigger than buildings. We hunted fast animals and smart animals and dangerous animals. And nothing on Earth hunts humans. Nothing. We killed or drove away everything that tried. The hall stayed quiet. Students looked at each other. Professor Thelver stood silent, considering. Dayon had made his case. Now he had to wait for the response. Professor Thelver stood quietly for a long moment. The entire lecture hall waited to hear what he would say. Finally, he spoke. Your presentation is compelling, Dayon. You have given us much to think about. But theory and data are one thing. Practical demonstration is another. I propose we test your claims. Dayon nodded. What did you have in mind, Professor? The professor walked to his control panel and began entering commands. The Academy has simulation chambers. We use them to study hunting behaviors from various worlds. These simulations are designed for apex predators. Students from predator species use them to understand their own evolutionary advantages. I propose you attempt one of these simulations. A three-dimensional map appeared in the air. It showed rough terrain with rocks, sparse plants, and open ground. This is a standard test. The simulation contains a synthetic prey animal based on creatures from my homeworld. It is fast, alert, and evolved to escape predators. Most apex predator species complete this hunt within 1 to 2 hours using their natural advantages: speed, enhanced senses, or superior strength. What equipment can I use? Dayon asked. Whatever you consider natural for human hunting. No advanced technology. No weapons beyond what your ancestors would have carried. The same rules that apply to testing natural predators. Dayon considered this. I'll need running clothes, water containers, and basic tracking tools. A simple spear if I can make one. Nothing my ancestors wouldn't have had 50,000 years ago. The professor agreed. Several students made sounds of amusement. Without advanced technology? How could a human compete against predators who had claws and superior senses built into their bodies? The class moved to the observation deck above the simulation chamber. The chamber itself was massive, several kilometers across. It could simulate different environments, temperatures, and conditions. Today it showed a hot, semi-dry landscape similar to Earth's African savanna. The sun in the simulation burned bright and hot. Dayon entered the chamber, wearing light clothing and carrying a water container. He had a simple stone knife and materials to make a spear. That was all. No guns, no advanced tools, nothing that gave him an unfair advantage. He looked very small standing in that huge space. The synthetic prey was released on the far side of the chamber. It looked something like an antelope, but with 6 legs and better senses than any Earth animal. Through the sensors, the class could see it was already 3 kilometers away. It moved fast, faster than any human could run. The prey has a 30-minute head start, Professor Thelver announced. The test ends in 6 hours. If Dayon successfully marks the prey with his spear, he passes. If not, we will consider his arguments interesting but insufficient. The timer started. Dayon didn't immediately chase the prey. Instead, he spent 10 minutes making a proper spear. He selected a straight piece of material, attached his stone knife securely to the end, and tested the balance. Only then did he check the direction the prey had gone and start moving. He didn't run. He started at a slow jog, steady and even. His breathing was controlled. Every few minutes he would slow down to check tracks in the dirt, then continue. The students watching were confused. The prey was so far ahead now. How could he possibly catch it? The first hour passed. The prey had found a shaded spot among some rocks and was resting. It felt safe. It couldn't see any predators nearby. Its evolved instincts told it to rest now, run later, if danger appeared. This was how prey animals survived. Then the sensors showed Dayon appearing about a kilometer away. Still jogging. Still coming. Still following the trail. The prey's sensors detected movement. It burst from cover and ran at top speed. Within minutes, it was 3 kilometers away again. Dayon never sped up. He just kept that same steady pace, following the new trail. Hannah, the Minari student, was watching closely. Her tendrils moved with interest. He's not trying to catch it by running faster. He's making it run until it can't anymore. But that will take hours, another student said. Most predators would give up. Most predators aren't built like humans, Hannah replied. The second hour passed. The prey ran 3 more times. Each time, it used its superior speed to escape. Each time, Dayon appeared on the horizon, following. The class noticed something. The human looked exactly the same as when he started. Same pace, same breathing rhythm. He drank water regularly. He stayed in shade when possible, but he never stopped moving forward. The prey, however, was changing. Its rests were getting longer. Its runs were getting shorter. Animals in the observation deck who had hunted before began to understand what they were watching. This wasn't a sprint. This was a marathon, and the human was built for marathons. The third hour began. The prey was running more wildly now. It wasn't choosing the best hiding spots anymore. It was just running away from the human who kept appearing behind it. Its body temperature was rising. It couldn't cool down fast enough between runs. Its muscles were getting tired. G1, the Vossen student, ran calculations on her computer. At this rate, the prey will reach critical exhaustion in approximately 2 more hours. The human's vital signs show he can continue for at least 6 more hours beyond that. That's impossible, a student protested. Nothing can run for 8 hours straight. Humans can, G1 said, checking her data again. Their biology is specifically built for it. Look at the efficiency of his movement. He's not wasting any energy. Every step is exactly the same. He's like a machine that runs on determination. The 4th hour was when the psychological aspect became clear. The prey could see the human in the distance now. Every time it looked back, the human was there. Not gaining ground quickly, but never falling behind either. Just there. Always there. Walking toward it with that same terrible patience, Hyunwoo. The Krolith student who had laughed at Daeyun stopped laughing. This is not normal predation. This is something else. It's making the prey panic. Professor Thelver was watching intently. He had seen many hunts in his long life. He had studied predators from 100 worlds, but he had never seen anything quite like this. The human wasn't overpowering the prey. He wasn't outsmarting it with a clever trap. He was simply refusing to stop, and that refusal was more frightening than claws or teeth. The 5th hour arrived. The prey was stumbling. It would run for a few minutes, then have to stop. Its breath came in gasps. Its legs shook. It had evolved to escape predators through speed. But it had never evolved to deal with a predator that just kept coming. Hour after hour, never stopping, never tiring. When the prey stopped to rest, it couldn't truly rest anymore because it could see the human approaching. When it ran, it couldn't run as fast or as far. The fear was making it run when it should have saved energy. The exhaustion was making it slow when it needed speed. It was trapped in a cycle it couldn't escape. At 5 hours and 43 minutes, the prey collapsed. Its legs folded under it. It lay on the ground, breath heaving, unable to rise. It was still alive, but its body had simply refused to continue. It had run itself to complete exhaustion. Daeon approached slowly. He was sweating, yes. His clothing was soaked, but his steps were still steady. His breathing was elevated but controlled. He walked up to the collapsed prey and gently touched it with his spear. The marking sensor activated. The test was complete. The observation deck was absolutely silent. Professor Thelver checked the biometric data from both the human and the prey. The prey's heart rate was dangerously high. Its stress hormones were at maximum levels. Its body temperature was critical. It was in medical terms experiencing total systemic failure from exhaustion. Daeon's readings showed heavy exertion, but nothing close to his limits. His heart rate was elevated but steady. His core temperature was slightly high, but within safe ranges. His muscle fatigue was moderate. The computer estimated he could have continued for at least 3 more hours at the same pace if needed. How? A student whispered. How is that possible? Daeon climbed out of the simulation chamber. He was tired, yes. Anyone could see that. But he was walking normally, thinking clearly, speaking normally. He had just hunted for nearly 6 hours. He looked like someone who had finished a difficult workout, not someone who had pus. Head to their absolute limit. Professor Thelver brought Daeon to the front of the observation deck. Explain what we just witnessed. The prey was faster than you. It had better senses. It chose good hiding spots. Why did it lose? Because it was afraid, Daeon said simply. Fear made it run when it should have rested. Exhaustion made it panic when it needed to think. It knew I was coming, and that knowledge broke it before I ever touched it. But you did nothing to cause fear except continue walking. Exactly. That's what makes persistence hunting so effective. The prey does most of the work. It runs itself to death trying to escape something that was never going to stop chasing it. We don't need to be faster. We just need to be inevitable. A long pause filled the observation deck. Then Hinwoo, the Krolith student, spoke. His voice was shaken. On my world, predators hunt by ambush or by speed. The prey either escapes immediately or dies immediately. There is no middle ground. This is cruel. You make them run until they literally cannot run anymore. You don't just kill them. You break them first, yes, Daeon said. He didn't sound proud or ashamed. Just honest. That's what humans do. That's what we evolved to do. We don't overpower prey. We outlast it. And the prey knows we're coming, which makes it worse for them. Professor Thelver looked at his class. I believe we have just witnessed something significant. This is not hunting as we traditionally define it. This is a form of predation the galaxy has never properly studied before. Daeon, you have made your point. The question now is what we do with this information. The class filed out slowly, quietly. They had come expecting to watch a human fail. Instead, They had watched something that unsettled them deeply. Dayon hadn't won through strength or speed or superior senses. He had won through patience, endurance, and the simple refusal to give up. And somehow, that was more frightening than all the claws, fangs in the galaxy. The simulation results spread through the academy like fire through dry grass. Within a day, everyone was talking about the human student and his 6-hour hunt. Within 2 days, other departments were requesting the data. Within 3 days, Professor Thelver made an announcement that changed everything. "I am opening a special research project," he told his class. "We will conduct a comprehensive analysis of human predatory capabilities using the same standards we apply to recognized apex predators. This will be a serious scientific study, not a debate. We will gather evidence, test theories, and reach conclusions based on facts." The class divided into research teams. Dayon served as a resource, providing Earth data and explaining human history. What started as one student's challenge became a full investigation into whether the galaxy understood predation at all. Hannah led the first team, studying human cognitive abilities. She was Minari, which meant she could sense thoughts and emotions to some degree. She had felt Dayon's mind during the simulation. It had frightened her, not because it was aggressive or violent, but because it was so calm, so focused, so absolutely certain of success. That kind of mental endurance was rare even among predator species. Her team discovered that human brains had evolved specifically for hunting, not just for intelligence in general, but for tracking prey. Humans could look at a few bent plants and know which way an animal went, how fast it was moving, how long ago it passed. They could predict where prey would go next based on understanding how prey thought. "It's more than tracking," Hannah explained to the class during her presentation. "Humans can model the mental state of their prey. They understand fear, exhaustion, and panic from the prey's perspective. This allows them to exploit psychological weaknesses. They're not just hunting bodies. They're hunting minds." She displayed evidence of human pack hunting. Unlike most predators that simply worked together, humans could plan complex strategies. They could communicate detailed instructions. They could assign roles. They could coordinate timing across vast distances. One group of humans could drive prey toward another group waiting in ambush, and they could change the plan mid-hunt if something unexpected happened. "This level of coordination is unprecedented," Hannah said. "Most pack predators follow instinctive patterns. Humans can create new strategies for each hunt, adapting to prey behavior in real time. They're not following a script. They're writing a new script for every situation." Guan's team studied human tool use. She was Vosin, a species of crystalline life forms who valued precision and logic. She had initially thought tools shouldn't count as natural predation, but her research changed her mind. "Human hands co-evolve with tools," she explained. "Their hands are not just for holding. They are built specifically for precision manipulation. The human thumb can move in ways that allow for delicate work. Their fingers have sensitivity that rivals specialized equipment. These hands evolved to make and use tools." Her team presented a timeline that shocked everyone. Stone tools, 400,000 years old? Wooden spears dating back even further? Humans had been tool makers for most of their evolutionary history. Tools weren't an addition to human hunting. Tools were part of what humans were. "Look at this progression," Jiwan said, displaying images. Simple stone scrapers became complex blades. Thrown rocks became balanced spears. Hand-thrown spears became spear throwers that doubled the range. Each innovation made humans more dangerous. By the time humans reached behavioral modernity, they could kill from distances their prey couldn't even comprehend. She showed reconstructions of ancient human hunters. A human with an autlot could throw a spear 60 meters with enough force to penetrate thick hide. A human with a bow could shoot accurately at 100 meters. These are ranged weapons with effectiveness that rivals modern infantry weapons from some species. And humans developed them using stone and wood. The third team, led by Hyun Woo, studied human physiology. The Krolith student had stopped mocking Dayon after the simulation. Now he was genuinely interested in understanding how human bodies worked. His team discovered adaptations that seemed minor until understood in context. Human skin was mostly hairless, covered in sweat glands. This seemed like a weakness. Most predators had thick fur or scales for protection, but hairless skin with efficient sweating meant humans could regulate temperature better than almost any other large predator. Humans can hunt in heat that would kill most apex predators, Hyun-woo explained. While other predators must rest in shade during the hottest parts of the day, humans can continue hunting. This means they can chase prey during the hours when prey is most vulnerable and when competing predators are inactive. They own the midday hours on their world. His team also studied human injury recovery. Humans could sustain injuries that would end a normal predator's hunting career and continue to hunt anyway. A broken bone that would starve a solitary predator could be managed by a human through tool use and group cooperation. Humans could hunt while injured in ways other predators simply could not. There is also the matter of human endurance healing, Hyun-woo added. Humans heal relatively quickly compared to their size. But more importantly, they can return to full activity soon after healing. Many predators never fully recover from serious injuries. Humans do. This allows them to take risks that other predators cannot afford. Professor Thelver added his own findings to the research. He had spent weeks comparing human capabilities to the 17 recognized apex predators. He created detailed charts showing strengths and weaknesses across multiple categories. What he found disturbed him. Humans were not the best at any single category. The Rockish were stronger. The Vrillin had better senses. The Nethrok were more adapted to their specific environment. In every individual measure, some other apex predator was superior to humans. But humans were good at everything. They were in the top 20% of every category when tools and adaptation were properly considered. Strength through leverage and tools. Senses through pattern recognition and prediction. Adaptation through intelligence and tool modification. Humans were generalists in a galaxy of specialists. I believe I have been measuring predation incorrectly, Professor Thelver admitted to his class. I looked for species that dominated a single environment through a single specialization. Humans do not fit that pattern. They do not dominate any environment through specialization. They dominate all environments through adaptation. He displayed data on human expansion across Earth. Humans lived in Arctic ice. They lived in scorching deserts. They lived in high mountains and deep jungles and open plains and coastal waters. No other land predator on Earth had such range. Most predators were limited to specific biomes. Humans went everywhere. When humans left Earth and encountered other species, the professor continued. They adapted to alien environments within single generations. They established colonies on worlds that should have been hostile to their biology. They did this not through genetic engineering, but through technology and sheer persistence. No other apex predator can leave their homeworld without extensive biological modification. Humans just build better tools and refuse to give up. The most controversial finding came from Min Jae, a Vrillin student who studied predator psychology. His species were oceanic hunters who understood the concept of fear very well. They used fear as a weapon, terrorizing prey before the kill. He recognized something similar in human hunting. Humans hunt for reasons beyond survival, Min Jae explained carefully. This is very rare even among predators. Most predators hunt when hungry or when defending territory. Humans hunt for practice. They hunt for sport. They hunt to prove they can. Sometimes they hunt simply because the challenge exists. He displayed records from Earth's history. Humans hunting dangerous animals, not for food, but for trophies. Humans climbing deadly mountains, not for resources, but for achievement. Humans exploring dangerous places, not for territory, but for curiosity. This behavior suggested a predatory drive that went beyond evolutionary necessity. What is most significant, Min Jae said, is that humans hunt other apex predators. On Earth, humans deliberately sought out the most dangerous prey. They hunted animals that could fight back, animals that could kill them. They did this for recreation. This suggests that humans are not content to simply be apex predators. They want to prove they are the apex predator. Student asked the question everyone was thinking. If humans are this dangerous, Why didn't they exterminate all life on Earth? Dayon answered, because we chose not to. Humans developed ethics, conservation, and controlled hunting practices. Not because we had to, but because we decided it was the right thing to do. We became powerful enough to destroy our own world's ecosystem, then consciously decided to limit ourselves. This revelation changed the discussion. The class realized they were not just studying a predator. They were studying a species that had become so dominant it had to deliberately restrain itself to prevent ecological collapse. Humans had not just mastered hunting, they had transcended it. Professor Thelver spent several days compiling all the research. The evidence was overwhelming. Humans might not fit the traditional apex predator profile in any single category. But taken as a whole, they represented something new, something the galaxy had never properly recognized. He called a meeting with the class. I am going to present our findings to the Xenobiological Council. They will decide whether the galaxy's classification system needs to change. But I want you all to understand what we have discovered here. We have found a species that hunts not through specialization, but through adaptability. A species that dominates not through superior weapons, but through superior determination. A species that can hunt anything, anywhere, anytime, using any means necessary. That sounds terrifying, Hannah said quietly. Should, Professor Thelver replied, because it is. But it is also remarkable. Humans are proof that apex predation can come from unexpected sources, that the most dangerous hunter is not always the one with the biggest claws. Sometimes the most dangerous hunter is the one who simply never stops coming. The class sat in silence, considering the implications. They had started this project thinking they would prove humans were not apex predators. Instead, they had discovered that humans might be the most successful apex predator the galaxy had ever seen. And nobody had noticed because humans did not look dangerous at first glance. The Grand Assembly Hall of the Xenobiological Council was designed to impress. It rose 50 meters high, with viewing galleries for hundreds of observers. Representatives from 47 different worlds sat in the council seats. This was where the galaxy's scientific community made decisions that affected everyone. Today, they were here to hear about humans. Professor Thelver stood at the presentation podium. Behind him, Daeyoon sat with Hannah, Jiwon, Hyunwoo, and Min-jae. The research team that had changed everything. The viewing galleries were packed. Scientists, diplomats, military observers, and curious students all wanted to hear the verdict on humanity. The council chair, a ancient Velkarin named Tesh Valum, opened the session. Professor Thelver, you have requested a review of the apex predator classification system. Specifically, you claim that humans should be recognized in this category. This is a significant claim. Please present your evidence. Professor Thelver began his presentation. He did not hide his initial skepticism. He explained how he had dismissed Dayon's question at first, how he had believed humans were too weak, too slow, too limited to be apex predators. Then he showed what he had learned. The persistence hunting footage played for the council. They watched in silence as the human pursued prey for hours without stopping. They saw the prey's panic. They saw its exhaustion. They saw how it broke mentally before it broke physically. Several council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This is not hunting as we have traditionally understood it, Professor Thelver explained. This is psychological warfare combined with physical endurance. The human does not need to be faster than the prey. He only needs to be more patient. And patience, we have learned, can be the most terrifying weapon of all. He presented the team's research next. Human throwing capabilities that allowed killing from distances most prey could not comprehend. Human tool use that was so integrated into their biology that separating human from tool was meaningless. Human intelligence focused specifically on predation and tracking. Human bodies built for endurance rather than speed. Each of these traits individually might seem unremarkable, the professor said. But together, they create something unprecedented. Humans are adaptive persistence predators with ranged capabilities and psychological warfare tactics. They do not fit our existing categories because we have never seen a species quite like them before. Council members began asking questions. A rockish representative stood. These traits are interesting, but they do not prove apex predator status. Where are the natural weapons? Where is the environmental dominance? Professor Thelver had prepared for this. Natural weapons take many forms. A rockish has claws. A human has hands that can make and use tools. Which is more versatile? Which is more deadly? As for environmental dominance, humans live in more diverse environments than any land predator we have ever studied. They dominate Arctic desert, jungle, mountain, and coastal regions. They are the only apex predator that can truly claim global dominance on their planet. A Minari counselor asked, "What about predators that are stronger, faster, or have better senses? How can humans claim apex status when other Earth species surpass them in individual categories?" Dayon was invited to answer this question. He stood and approached the podium. He looked small next to Professor Thelver, small next to the massive council members. But his voice was steady. "You are asking the wrong question," Dayon said. "You are asking who would win in direct combat. But apex predation is not about combat. It is about the ability to hunt anything you choose and to never be hunted yourself. On Earth, no animal hunts humans. Not anymore. Anything that tried was killed or driven away. Meanwhile, humans hunt everything, including other apex predators." He displayed data on human hunting practices. Humans hunt sharks. We hunt crocodiles. We hunt bears and big cats. We seek out the most dangerous prey on our world and hunt them not for food, but for sport. This is not the behavior of a prey animal. This is not even the behavior of a typical predator. This is the behavior of a species that has gone beyond simple survival. The council was silent. Dayon continued. "Other predators are better than us at specific tasks. But name one predator that can hunt in as many environments as humans. Name one predator that can adapt to new challenges as quickly as humans. Name one predator that can coordinate as effectively as humans. You cannot, because no such predator exists. Humans are not the best at any one thing. We are good enough at everything to hunt anything anywhere." A Vrillan counselor spoke up. "This paints humans as extremely dangerous. Should other species be concerned about human expansion into the galaxy?" The hall went quiet. This was the question everyone wanted answered, but feared to ask. Were humans a threat? Dayon took a breath. Humans are dangerous. Yes. Any apex predator is dangerous. But humans are also capable of choice. We developed ethics and conservation laws on Earth not because we had to, but because we decided it was right. We learned to live alongside other species instead of exterminating them. We chose cooperation over domination. He paused, looking around at the council members. But I will not lie to you. Humans have the capacity to be the galaxy's apex predator if we choose that path. We have the persistence, the adaptability, and the determination to hunt anything that exists. Whether we become your greatest threat or your strongest ally depends on how we are treated and what we choose to become. Honesty shocked some council members. Others respected it. Dayon was not hiding what humans were. He was simply explaining that humans understood their own nature and could choose how to use it. Professor Thelver concluded his presentation. I am recommending a new classification. Sapient Adaptive Predators. This category recognizes species that achieve apex predator status not through specialization, but through intelligence, tool use, and adaptability. Currently, humans are the only known species that fully fits this category. They are apex predators, but of a type we have never encountered before. The council deliberated for 2 hours. Dayon and his team waited in a side room. Nobody spoke much. They all understood that this decision would change how the galaxy viewed humanity. Finally, the council called them back. Council Chair Teshvalum stood to deliver the verdict. After careful consideration of the evidence and extensive debate, this council has reached a decision. Humans are hereby officially recognized as apex predators, classified under the new category of sapient adaptive predators. This classification acknowledges both their predatory capabilities and their unique evolutionary path. The viewing galleries erupted in sound. Some species cheered. Others made sounds of concern. Everyone understood that the galaxy's understanding of predation had just been fundamentally changed. Teshvalum continued. This classification comes with recommendations. Other species are advised to approach humanity with respect for their capabilities and awareness of their history. However, we also recognize humanity's demonstrated capacity for cooperation and ethical restraint. Humans are to be treated as potential partners rather than automatic threats, while maintaining appropriate caution. Professor Thelver bowed to the council. Dayan and his team did the same. They had done it. They had changed galactic scientific consensus through evidence and determination. Humanity was now officially recognized as what they had always been, apex predators who walked quietly, but carried the persistence of millions of years of evolution. The team walked out of the assembly hall together. Other students and observers gave them space. Some looked at Dayan differently now. Not with pity or amusement, but with respect mixed with wariness. The small, soft human was now officially classified as a predator. Back at the academy, life continued. Dayan returned to his regular classes. Professor Thelver went back to teaching, though his Apex Predator course now included a whole new section on adaptive predation. The research papers published by the team became required reading in xenobiology programs across the galaxy. One evening, Dayan met with his team in the academy's common area. Hannah, Giwan, Hinwoo, and Minjae had become real friends through their research. They sat together, discussing their next assignments, sharing stories about their different worlds. Hyunwoo looked at Daeyoon thoughtfully. I want to apologize. When you first asked your question in class, I laughed at you. I thought you were foolish. I was wrong. You were not wrong to question, Daeyeon said. You were just using the wrong measurements. Most people do when they first meet humans. We do not look dangerous. That might be your greatest advantage, Minjae observed. Prey that underestimates you has already lost half the battle. Hannah's tendrils moved in a pattern that showed concern. I have been thinking about something. On my world, predators hunt because they must. It is survival. But you said humans sometimes hunt for sport, for challenge. That suggests a drive beyond necessity. Does that not concern you? Daeyeon considered this carefully. Yes, it concerns me. Humans have done terrible things because of that drive. We have caused extinctions. We have hunted animals beyond any rational need. But we have also learned to recognize when we are going too far. We created laws to protect prey species. We established conservation areas. We learned that being able to hunt everything does not mean we should hunt everything. That is the difference between you and a simple predator, Jiwon said. Simple predators follow instinct. You can override instinct with choice. That makes you more than just dangerous. It makes you unpredictable. Is that bad? Daeyeon asked. No, Professor Thelver said, approaching their group. He had heard the last part of their conversation. It makes humans interesting, and it gives the rest of us hope that humans will choose to be allies rather than threats. The professor sat down with them. I want to thank all of you. You have taught me something important. I have been studying predators for centuries, but I was measuring them by old standards. You showed me that evolution creates new patterns, new strategies, new types of hunters. Humans are proof that we must always be ready to revise our understanding. What will you teach in next semester's class? Hannah asked. Everything we learned. The 17 traditional apex predators still matter. But now, we will also discuss adaptive predation. How intelligence can be as deadly as claws. How patience can be as dangerous as venom. How the scariest predator might be the one that does not look scary until it is too late. They sat together as the academy's artificial sun set in the viewing dome above. Students from a dozen worlds walked past, going about their lives. Some were predators by evolution. Some were prey. Some were neither. All of them were learning to understand each other better. Daeyeon looked at his friends and his professor. He thought about the long road that had brought humans from Earth to the stars. Millions of years of walking, hunting, adapting, and refusing to give up. Humans had walked across an entire planet. Then they had walked into the sky. Now they walked among the stars, and everywhere humans walked, they carried that ancient patience with them. The patience that had made them persistent hunters, the patience that had driven prey to exhaustion across the African savanna, the patience that had built civilizations and reached for impossible dreams. Hyun Woo broke the comfortable silence. I learned something from studying you, Dayen. I always thought apex predators were defined by what they could kill. You taught me they are defined by what they choose not to kill. That takes more strength than any claws or teeth. Dayan smiled. My species is still learning that lesson. We are apex predators, yes, but we are trying to be wise apex predators. To use our capabilities for good instead of just for hunting. It is harder than it sounds. But you are trying, Professor Thelver said. That is what matters. That is what makes humans more than just another predator species. You have the capacity to be the galaxy's greatest danger, but you also have the capacity to be its greatest protector. The choice is yours. Conversation drifted to other topics. Classes and assignments and plans for the future. But underneath it all was a new understanding. Humans were not weak. They were not harmless. They were patient, persistent, adaptive hunters who had earned their place among the galaxy's apex predators. Through millions of years of never giving up, and now the galaxy knew it. The question was not whether humans were dangerous. Everyone knew they were. The question was what humans would choose to do with that danger. Would they be hunters or protectors? Threats or allies? Only time would tell. But one thing was certain. Humans would face that choice with the same patience and determination they had used to walk out of Africa and into the stars. They would never stop moving forward. They would never give up. And that, more than any claw or tooth, was what made them truly apex predators.